Okay, let's get started. So every year we try and look at our medical costs and coverage because it's an incredibly rising cost out there. It's going up anywhere from 3 to 4 times inflation, it seems. So this year, I guess the stars aligned and we lined up with these fine folks. So these guys are from Brown and Brown. It's Nayeli Ruiz and Dan Smith. And so we're moving our plan over here. And we have all the documentation up front of it. So they're going to run through it with us and show us what it's all about. And if you want to be sure to touch on the sign-up period.
Absolutely, will do. Well, good morning. My name's Daniel. I'm with Brown & Brown Insurance, as Richard mentioned. Brown & Brown, we're not an insurance company. Okay, at the end of the day, we're just a service company. And so we're here as advocates for all of you. Healthcare is really complex, it's confusing. If you've ever gone to the doctor, which I'm sure all of you have, you might get 2 or 3 explanations of benefits that all have different amounts on it, or you get a bill that's really confusing, or you're having troubles getting something approved with your provider. That's what we're here for you throughout the year. So we're really advocates for you to help you navigate through the confusing system, to help you get aligned with the insurance company and get the right outcome for yourself. So just know that Nayeli and I and our entire team, we're here for you as advocates now through open enrollment as well as all throughout the year. So if you ever are just banging your head against the wall and you need help, try to remember that we're here for you as well. And I know that Kim and Richard, if you ever have a question to them, they'll probably direct you to us if they can't answer it themselves. Okay, so one, just thank you. I know that anytime you're making a change like this, your health insurance is a very personal thing for you and your family. I've had a really good time working with Kim and Richard and your leadership team here. One thing that's really apparent in all of our conversations is that there was some savings on the table, as Richard mentioned, by making this change for the company and for many of you in the room. But more importantly, they worried more about you. What is the impact to the employee, right? How is this going to benefit the employees by making a change? And so that's a nice conversation for me to have because I work with dozens of different employers, hundreds of employers on their health insurance plans, and many times the leadership team is saying, how do we just reduce costs, right? Because it's such a crazy cost. It's all we really care about. And then secondhand is the employees. We're here as the opposite. So I think you guys work for an excellent company, and when we walk through the benefits, they provide you some really pretty good benefits as well. So don't hesitate to ask questions as we go through this. I don't want to be the only person talking the entire time about this really exciting topic of health insurance. I'll do my best to try to keep it interesting and keep it at a very high level. Again, we only have 3 hours to go through all the information today, so I'll try to keep it as high level as possible. No, we'll get through it, but I could talk about it for 3 hours easily. So we're gonna cover everything at really a high level. So if you do have questions, we'll hang out afterwards because again, it is kind of an individualized thing for your own needs, for you and your family.
It's going to be 3 hours. It's going to be nap time.
Yeah, exactly. I talk about this stuff all day, so I actually get excited about it. This is your open enrollment period, right? Everything we talk about is going to affect January 1st, so the beginning of the new year, which is right around the corner. But what open enrollment means is that this is really your one time a year where you get to add or remove dependents or change plans without the need of a qualifying life event. Okay, so once you make this decision, you're really locked in for the full year next year. Okay, the only time throughout the year where you can make changes is if you were to have a baby, adopt a baby, if you were to get divorced or get married, or there was a change in your employment status, like if your spouse lost their job and they were on their employer's coverage and all of a sudden you want to add them to Northwest Edison's coverage, you're able to do that. But if you just said, hey, 2 months down the road, you said, I don't really like the plan I'm on, I wish I had the other plan, you can't change. You're really locked in for that full 12 months. Okay, so this is a really important time. You do have a stack of paperwork, which again, this is from that change, so there is more paper in front of you than we would like there to be, but this will be that one time because of the significant changes, just to kind of make sure that we have everyone's correct names and date of birth and people that you want on the plan, your addresses, all that. So make sure you mark all the appropriate boxes on all the paperwork in front of you, fill them out into their entirety, and make it legible. Right? Because we don't want your stuff to go to the wrong place if we can't read your handwriting. We do have until the 12th So that's what, next Wednesday?
Yes.
To complete all the paperwork. So this is, the next week is really important for you to sit down with your family and make the decisions on which plans you want to enroll in. And, come the 12th, if you haven't turned it in, then you don't want Kim and Richard chasing you down looking for the paperwork. Help them out and get it in before then if you can. So these are all the plans that we're going to walk through today. You can see that we're going to talk about your medical plan, which includes the health savings account, dental, vision, and group life insurance. You will notice that these are, with the exception of the bank account portion, the health savings account bank account, that's staying the same. Everything else is changing. So you're moving from what is currently Regents to Primera, right? So the good news there is that many of you are probably familiar with Primera. They're the largest health insurance company in the state of Washington. They cover more people in the state of Washington than any other insurance plan. And I know many of you are outside of Washington that are on the call. The few of you there, you're going to be using that same Blue Card network that you're currently using with Regents. So if you're traveling outside of the Regents network, or the Primera network, you're going to be using the exact same coverage that you currently have today. Okay. So the note I'll say there is just make sure that your providers are contracted in the network. I think that you could probably just continue to go see without looking, and there's a 99.9% chance they're going to be covered in network if your current provider is with Regents, because they're technically like brother-sister companies. Right? Regents and Primera are both part of the Blues network, and so there's very, very little difference in the networks, but there is a slight difference. So just go and make sure that you're seeing providers that are contracted with Primera as you go into the new year. Okay. And again, anybody outside of the Primera network in any other states, it's the exact same network that you currently have. So even if you're traveling, right, for projects and whatnot, it's going to be the same card that you have today.
Dan, did you say that the health savings accounts will not change? So that's the same
Exactly.
debit card we have now?
Yep, same debit card, and we'll walk through all of that as well. Before I jump onto this slide, you do have this nice employee benefits guide in front of you, right? This whole packet that has all of the full benefit summaries in here and all the great information, as well as our contact information in the back. So if you do have questions, this is a really nice resource for you now or throughout the year. It's also got some of these side-by-side comparisons on there. So just take this home with you, because this is probably what you'll be looking through as you're making these decisions now. So on like the 4th or 5th page is a similar comparison. I know that's probably hard to read on the screen.
It's on page 8.
So this is really looking at, just at a very high level, the two plans side by side, and I'm going to walk through some of those differences. So as you have today, these plans are very similar. There's a couple differences in these plans than what you currently have, but they're very similar. So this should be very familiar to all of you on what you currently have with Regents, as it's going to be very much the same with Primera. So you have two plan options to choose from for you and your family. The first one is that high deductible health plan that qualifies for that health savings account, that bank account portion, okay? So we do need to differentiate the two. There is a difference between the health plan and the bank account. So I'm going to talk about the health plan now, and then we'll talk about the bank account after. So the health plan is the one on the left. It's got the $2,500 deductible if you're an individual, right? And if you have any dependents on the plan, that deductible becomes $5,000. Okay, so it has that higher deductible. Once you've satisfied that deductible, you then start paying co-insurance. Okay, so you pay 20% of the bill after you've satisfied your deductible until you've met your out-of-pocket maximum for the year of $5,000 as an individual, $10,000 if you have any dependents on the plan. The out-of-pocket maximum is a true out-of-pocket max, so that includes the deductible and any co-insurance that you've paid, right? So even if you had a catastrophic event like a cancer or something like that, and it was a $200,000 or $300,000 or $500,000 medical bill, as long as you were using an in-network provider, you'd be out $5,000 as an individual on this plan. Okay, so it really is there for those catastrophic events, and that's on the HSA qualifying plan. Really, everything applies to that deductible outside of preventive care. Preventive care is covered in full on both plans, so regardless of which plan you're on, go and see your doctor. Go get checked up. The reason it's covered in full, that was required by the Affordable Care Act in 2010, is that many men in the room, we're really bad at getting our annual checkups, right? So please go get checked up and just get to know your numbers, because if you could take like a blood pressure medication or if you have high cholesterol, and get that under control by taking some kind of prescription that most likely could be free every month to take, or just a couple of dollars, you're preventing a major catastrophic event from happening down the road, like a heart attack or something like that, right? It can be really catastrophic and life-changing. So that's why they're incenting you to go use those benefits that are going to cost you nothing. So they're taking the financial piece out of it for you, so you really have no reason to not go and use that service. Okay, so that's regardless of which plan. So outside of that, really everything on that plan, on that HSA qualifying plan, applies to the deductible. So even if you're going for an office visit, right, just because you have the flu or something, an office visit's probably going to run, or urgent care is actually going to be $150 or $200 for an office visit. If you're on this plan and you haven't satisfied your deductible, you're going to pay that much. You're going to pay that entire bill until you've satisfied the deductible. Same with prescription drugs on that plan. Prescriptions are also, you have to meet your deductible first, and then you start paying the co-insurance after. So if you're on some type of prescription, right, that costs $25 a month is the actual cost of that prescription, you're going to pay $25 every month until you've met that deductible. Okay? Once you've met the deductible, then you would pay 20% of that, $25. So you pay whatever, $5. Does that make sense?
So if that's a family, if you have a family,
Yep.
and as long as, it doesn't matter whose prescription it is, it's going towards that family deductible?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's one difference between the HSA qualifying plan and this buy-up plan, we'll call it, the $2,000 deductible PPO plan, is that as soon as you have one dependent on the plan, really your deductible becomes $5,000, and one person can satisfy that deductible. Any questions on that plan? That is all these are the exact same as what they are today. So that high deductible plan, if any of you are on it, there are no changes. You currently have that same deductible, same co-insurance, and same out-of-pocket maximum. So really the only change for you is you're going to get a new ID card in the mail from the new health insurance Primera, and then you're off and running.
A quick
Okay.
question, but the HSA versus the PPO.
Yes, sir.
Cover, prescription drugs at all until the deductible or the 2,500 is met, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, there is a small list of preventive drugs that are covered in full as well that fall under that preventive benefit. So if it's one of those, you would pay nothing out of your pocket, but anything outside of that list you would have to satisfy your deductible first.
That list up.
We can send it. Sorry, what was that?
Do we have that list?
We can get that list sent over to Kim for distribution. Absolutely. Yep.
What kinds of drugs are there?
Yeah.
There'd be some, it's different. It'd be, like a contraceptive. There's some contraceptives on there. Anything that was required by the ACA. So there are some high blood pressure, high cholesterol, things like that are on there, but they're very specific ones.
Insulin?
It just depends. Yeah, depends on the dosage, what it's used for, but it very well could be as well.
Insulin's for diabetics.
Yeah, exactly. So we'd have to look again.
Okay.
There's different levels of insulins and different types, so whichever one is covered.
Hopefully it's not one that has to be switched.
Yeah.
That's part of the problem when insurance switches. One insurance will pay for one insulin and one will pay for the other. And if somebody's better on one insulin than the other, then you're kind of stuck.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's where we want to look, because that's part of your decision making on which plans to sign up for, right? If it is one that's covered in full, you very well want to go on the HSA, but it's one that's going to cost you money out of your pocket and could be covered out of copay on the buy-up plan, then that might be part of the decision making into going into the buy-up plan or the traditional PPO plan. Yeah. And that, the prescriptions is where we do see a lot, where the biggest change can be when you're making a change like this. So one just tip here is that if you have any prescriptions that you need filled, go get them filled by the end of the year. That way, it gives you some time to get familiar with the new plan, right? Because we are making these changes in the middle of December. Everybody will be in the system by January 1st, but we're going to be close on timing as far as getting your new ID card in the mail, right? And so you'll be in the system, but what we don't want is you to go to need a prescription on January 1st and just have a potential issue where they can't, for some reason, look your information up yet. Because we are going to be kind of towards the end of the year where everything's getting loaded into the system. So if you can get your prescriptions filled on the current plan by the end of the year, and then, there shouldn't be any problem, but I just want to note that, right, as we start the new plan. Okay, on the second plan on the right-hand side of the screen this is your PPO plan. There are just a couple differences here between your current buy-up plan on the $2,000 deductible. This plan here has the $2,000 deductible for an individual, $4,000 for the family. The difference is each person has their own individual $2,000 deductible. So one person can't meet the $4,000. Once you met the $2,000, you've then satisfied your deductible on this plan. Has that same 80% coinsurance, and you'll pay that coinsurance until you've met the out-of-pocket maximum on this plan of $6,850 as an individual, $13,700 as a family. That out-of-pocket maximum is $500 higher than it is on your current plan. So right now it's $6,350. So that's going up $500 on the new plan. And then it's double that for the family. So it's $1,000 higher on this plan than it is in 2018. The nice thing about these plans is that what most people use their benefits for, 80% of all claims we see would be covered at a copay, right? So office visits, right? So going into your primary care provider, if you go to an urgent care, you're going to just be paying an office visit copay. If you see a specialist, right, you're going to pay $35. Your deductible does not apply. So you just pay $35. So the only time those deductibles really apply is if you're getting some type of surgery, some type of complex lab and imaging, right, x-rays, things like that, MRIs. If you get admitted into the hospital, right, and needed more of a major surgery, that's when those deductibles apply. But for what most people, again, use their insurance for, would be covered at the copay. Again, that's those office visits where I'd said on the HSA, those might be $150 to $250 in actual cost, right, that gets billed. On this plan, you pay $35 for those. All right, preventive care is covered in full. And then the other big difference here is that prescriptions are covered at copays. Okay, so there's really 3 tiers that all prescriptions fall into on this plan. The first one being generic. So if you're using a generic prescription, it's a $15 copay. Most generics don't actually cost $15. There's something like $5 or $6 or $8, right? If you're going to any, like a Costco or Bartell's or Walgreens or Rite Aid or Safeway to fill your prescriptions, most generics are on some type of value plan, right? So you're only going to pay that $5 or $6 or $8 if that's what that drug actually costs. You're not going to pay $15 because your plan says $15. The only time you're going to pay $15 is if that prescription actually costs $15 or more dollars, right? Which there are those as well. So you're going to pay $15 for the generics. On that second tier, right, those are the preferred drugs. Those would be $30, right? And then the fourth tier is $50. That's those non-preferred or specialty drugs, $50 copay. Okay. So those 2 tiers are the ones that if you're taking any preferred or non-preferred, like our specialty prescriptions, that this plan may be the right decision for you and your family because those prescriptions can get really costly, right? Preferred drugs, they can run anywhere between like $50 and a couple $100 per month per script, right? So you'd be paying $30 for those. And those specialty prescriptions can be thousands of dollars a month. So I don't know if any of you are golfers and you see old Phil Mickelson on the commercial for Humira, or Enbrel for rheumatoid arthritis, right? That prescription actually costs $4,000 to $5,000 per month. Right, so if you're using that, that's something you'll probably take the rest of your life. You're going to pay $50 a month for it, right? Where if you're on the HSA plan, right, and that first month is $4,000, let's call it, you're going to satisfy your $2,500 deductible and pay 20% of that other $1,500. So you already know you're going to pay. If you're an individual, you're already going to meet your out-of-pocket maximum for the year of $5,000. Right, so we're over here on this plan. You're going to pay maybe a little bit more in premium to be on that plan every month. But you're just going to pay $50 a month for that prescription, so $600 a year versus $5,000. Okay. Those are the types of things you want to be looking at when you're determining which plan makes sense for you and your family to enroll in.
Is there like a list of, does it matter what the prescription is? On the copay where you said you only pay the $50 a month?
Mm-hmm.
Does it have to
Be
be?
something that's covered on a list, the
Yeah, so
prescription?
I mean, there are things that are excluded from coverage at all, and those would be those progressive, like, things that are, searching for the right word here, that are like, they're testing them still, they haven't been approved. Those would, experimental, there you go. Those may not be covered, but everything else, you can go onto Primera's website, and you can actually do a prescription search, and it will tell you which category it falls into, 1, 2, or 3. Okay.
Okay.
If you have an existing HSA, moving into new HSA, are you gonna get a new account with that? Or is it gonna?
You'll get it. That's where there's the two separate things, right? You've got the health plan, so you're definitely, everybody in here is getting a new ID card from Primera, right? So the Regent's ID card's no longer gonna work, but your existing HSA, like bank account, debit card,
Yeah,
that'll stay the same.
okay.
Yep. Or if you're enrolling for the first time, obviously you'll get a debit card for the first time. So that's really the two plans. There's the copay of $35. You currently have a $40 copay, so that's actually gone down by $5, which is nice. And then your current prescription drug tiers is $10 for generic, so that's gone up $5, but then it's $40 for that middle tier, that preferred drug currently. So that's going to $30, so it's a $10 savings there. And that third tier, which is $50 on this plan, is currently $80. So there's a $30 savings per copay for that third tier. So from a copay perspective, really kind of better across the board, because again, most of the time you're not going to pay the $15 for those generics unless it's one of the higher cost generics. So really the only major change here is that the out-of-pocket maximum has gone up. And again, on this plan, most things don't apply to the deductible and out-of-pocket maximum. That would really require like a major surgery, a birth of a child, complex lab and imaging, things like that. Any questions on the medical plans?
So if you do go to the PPO, then you wouldn't have the health savings account.
Right. Yep.
One or the other.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry, I think you went over this already. Same network providers, if you're in network with someone currently with our existing plan, those same providers would be available.
You should do the research because they are different networks, right? But there's like a 99% overlap of networks, so
Okay.
in both networks they're the same. But I would just encourage everyone to get familiar with Primera's website, and you can go on and search providers and make sure they're in network there. And then anytime, like this happened to me when I had both of my kids. So we went to the hospital, delivered our children, and the anesthesiologist, right, for the epidural was not contracted with. We went to a multi-care facility, which is covered by our contract, but the anesthesiologist, they contract a third party to bring those in. They weren't in network. So we did our part in making sure that we were seeing an in-network provider, and they happened to use, a third party that was not. And so that is something that really only happens when you're in the emergency room where there's that potential, right? We were able to appeal that and get it approved as in-network though. So just be aware that can happen. The other thing with preventive care, just another note on preventive care is that you can go in and say, hey, I really just want this to be, my annual checkup or whatever. And if they find something wrong with you, right, if you did have high blood pressure, they probably won't code it as a preventive care visit and they're going to bill you for it, right? So just make sure you're really communicating well with the provider, that they just say, hey, I'm here for an office visit as a preventive care visit, please bill it as that, right? And they'll listen to you, especially if you're on the HSA, that's crucial, right? Because then you're going to get a $150 bill that you thought would be $0, right? So whatever they code it, that's how it's going to be billed by Primera. So just make sure you're asking, or if you get a bill and you thought it'd be free, you can go back and have them reprocess that. That said, if they find something or they need some additional testing and work done, then that would be out of your own pocket because it would no longer fall under the purview of preventive.
So as you said about the anesthesias, and if it's out of network, that maximum is going to be 6850 only?
No, so yeah, out of network benefits. So again, this is where you just really want to make sure you're seeing people that are contracted and in the network. At the end of the day, regardless of which plan you're on, you could see the out of network benefits are higher. So it could cost you really a ton more money to see people that are out of the network. So anytime you're seeing someone, just go onto the Premera website or call the provider directly and ask if they're contracted with Premera. It'd be hard for you. You'd have to make so many calls to find someone that's not. That said, I still want you all to double check, and especially if it's something more major. So if you're going to a hospital, all the major hospitals are contracted with Premera. But if you're, because you can see here, this is the scary part, right? The out-of-network, out-of-pocket maximum is not applicable, meaning that if you saw someone that, like if you did have a cancer treatment and it was a $500,000 medical cost, right? You could pay, it'd bankrupt most people because there is no out-of-pocket limit on what you could pay out of your own pocket. So that's where it's so important to make sure you're seeing people that are contracted and in the network. The only time we ever see network issues, and this is true with Regents, Premera, or anybody, is with like naturopaths or chiropractors, things like that, because they're very picky over which contracts they sign into. Many of them don't even take insurance at all, right? Because they don't pay those providers really anything for their work. And so those are the ones that if anyone were here to call us, it'd probably be because their naturopath or something wasn't covered or didn't accept Premera. And again, that's not a Premera thing. That's really, they probably just don't accept anybody's insurance. If they accept Regents, they probably accept Premera. Premera is actually the most generous with their contracts to providers, so that's why they have such a large network, is that providers like Premera, right? They pay them the most. Any other questions?
Can I just make sure that I understand? Currently, I have the HSA, and if the deductible is $2,500 would be for me, and then one for each of my daughters, correct? But if any one of us reached the 5,000, then we've all met our deductible?
That's right.
Okay, and in the other plan, it's 2,000 per and 4,000. So if one of us were to meet the 4,000, that does not cover the other two?
One person couldn't meet the 4,000, they would stop at 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then.
Or one person could meet your 5,000 on the HSA.
Which they do, so
Yeah.
that's why I'm asking on the other one.
On the other one, they would stop at 2,000, and then the co-insurance would start right away.
And then, but the other two people would have to reach $2,000, one or two people? How does that work?
Just one, yeah, because then it becomes 4,000 for the family.
It wouldn't matter if one reached 1,000, the other hit 1,000, as long as it's a total of 4,000.
Right,
Then we
yeah,
all
if you have
get-
5 people and 4 of them hit 1,000, then you'll have met the 4,000 as well. Yeah,
And that's the difference between,
that's a big difference between the two. Yeah, because one person could meet the full 5,000 over here, where over here they couldn't. So if you had, one, like your spouse or something, right, that had a known medical condition, right, over here they'd be maybe the 2,000 start paying, where over there they could be all 5, right, or maybe the rest of your family is fairly healthy, right, and doesn't really use their insurance a lot. That's going to be another key determiner on which plan you sign up for. And again, there is a cost sheet as well that kind of breaks down the difference in the plans. So that's another way to look at which plans make sense for you and your family, right? Because that HSA plan is less expensive to sign up for. So that's something to keep in mind. So just an example, right, is we're looking at,
What page is that, Dan?
this is page 7, so if we flip back one page. There's not a significant difference there to where it's where it makes like a huge, really makes a decision for you. But just, it is a little bit less expensive to be on the HSA plan.
Yeah, just make sure you're looking at the right column if you're bi-weekly or weekly payroll. I think
Yeah. So we've got the total here and then what you pay per month. So the difference is what Northwest Edison is picking up. And for most of you in the room, what you'll see is that there's probably a pretty significant savings across the board to be added if you have dependents on the plan. So I think most of you will be pleasantly surprised with the new plans and what they're going to cost out of your paycheck. All right, so moving on, I'm going to talk about a really nice service that's available to everyone that I don't think is available on your current plan. So we're just going to note this is Teledoc. Is anyone familiar with Teledoc? Okay, great. So Teledoc I think is really cool. I have wife, couple kids at home, and we use this service with our kids quite a bit. It's basically with Primera, you can Skype call or call a doctor within a matter of minutes, and they can prescribe medications over the phone. So if you have pink eye, for example, if you know you have pink eye, right, you're going to most likely right now, you're going to be in your pajamas, drive to urgent care, sit in urgent care for 2 hours to get a prescription that you could have filled yourself, right? And so with this, you can literally Skype call, from the comfort of your home, skip that whole drive to urgent care and waiting in the waiting room. They'll go, yep, you got pink eye, and they'll send a prescription to your pharmacy of choice. Okay, so really anything that you can self-diagnose, right? So if you have anything on here, the flu, cough and cold, pink eye again is a great one. If you have some type of rash or a migraine, right? Anything that you can self-diagnose, right? You can call the service, utilize it, saves you all that time, right? So if you have a rash, you're at work right now, you're going to have to take half the day off of work, right, to go get seen. Here, you can literally take a break for 15 minutes, and the prescription will be waiting for you on your way home. So super nice, really nice with kids. We use this all the time. The nice thing here is that if you're on that PPO plan, that bio plan, that's copays, it's a $35 copay. This is if you went and saw an office visit. Okay? And if you're on the HSA plan, there is a $45 cost. The total cost is $45. So again, that's significant savings over going to urgent care as well and paying $150, $200. Right? So $45 claim will come through, and you'll pay that $45 till you met your deductible. Once you've met that deductible, you only pay 20% of that cost, so you only pay $9 for that same service. If you're using it for any dermatology consultation, it's a $75 cost. Still $35 on the bio plan, $75 on the HSA is the actual cost of that. Cool. Okay. So there is a flyer in the packet as well with more information on how to access this service and use it.
Which page? Around 35. And then there's also an FAQ.
Page 35.
35.
It's completely confidential. I hope everyone uses it. Like, this should be a number that is on speed dial for everybody.
That's gonna be, I'm gonna have an app for it on my phone.
Yeah, no,
I'm just kidding.
No, seriously, you should. Seriously. Everybody could go download the app in advance and have it ready to go, because we hope that I'm just speaking from my own experience. It's really nice, right, to just stay in the comfort of your home and get something that you already know that you need, and it saves you money. And I'm on an HSA plan. So
what it works great for is if you have kids that are in school and you need to get them to the doctor and you can't make plans because they've got classes they can't miss, and then you're constantly in the cycle of when can you go. So
exactly.
Right, you can do it when they get home from school.
It's really sweet.
Ash, let me get a video of that.
Obviously, if you cut your arm and need stitches, or you break your leg, they can't do anything on the phone for you. So you still need to go to urgent care or the emergency room, right? So it can't do everything. It's really for those kind of common illnesses, right? That again, you can self-diagnose. You can probably self-diagnose if you break your leg and need a cast too, but they can't do it for you over Skype. So really cool benefit that I hope next year when we're having this meeting that you're all going. That was really awesome to have that benefit added. We're going to talk a little bit about the HSA account. Okay, so this again coordinates with that base plan, that high deductible health plan. You must be enrolled in that plan to be eligible for this bank account. Okay, so this is a big reason why people may determine that they want to be on the high deductible health plan is because of this tax savings account that's attached to it. Okay, so you get a bank account that's set up. Literally, it's like a checking account set up at Health Equity. They're the bank, right, in your name, that you can put pre-tax dollars into, right, to pay for those known medical, dental, or vision expenses. And you're putting the money in on a pre-tax basis with the account via payroll deductions, right? And then when you get a debit card in your name, just like your checking account, right? And when you're using that debit card on qualifying medical, dental, or vision expenses, it comes out tax-free as well. So this money's never taxed, basically, which the IRS doesn't love. They love getting taxes from all this. So they actually put a cap on how much you're able to contribute in there, right? Otherwise, there'd be people that just put like their whole paychecks into the HSA so they don't have to pay taxes. The cap for 2019 is $3,500. So if you're enrolled as an individual only on the plan, you can put $3,500 in next year. And if you have one or more dependent on the plan, you can put $7,000. That's gone up a little bit from what it is in 2018. If you're over the age of 55, you can do an additional $1,000 like catch-up contribution into the plan as well, on top of those amounts.
Do you have to wait for the next year to sign up for that, or do you, once you turn 55, you can increase it?
Once you turn 55, you can increase it.
You can put more into the account, but then it just becomes taxable.
That's right, yeah. So you don't want to go through that though, because then there's this is more just watch the amount you're putting in.
I'm just
Otherwise,
saying if you put like $50 in there, the pay period, you never use it ever. Eventually, 5 years from now.
well, yeah. So the other really great benefit about this, so you just want to watch how much you put in 2019. So as long as you don't put in more than 3,500 or 7,000 in 2019, the other great benefit is that it rolls over year, right? So you put in that 3,500 and maybe you only use 1,000 of it, right? Because you were lucky and you only had a couple prescriptions and a couple teledoc visits for the year. So now you have $2,500 left at the end of the year. That will roll into the new year. So if you just keep that up after 4 or 5 years, you may have $20,000 saved up in your HSA account to pay for those medical expenses that we're going to all have at some point down the road, right? So many people like this because there aren't very many tax pre-tax places that we can put like money aside, right? You can in your 401k or IRAs or some types of annuities and things like that, but there's not enough vehicles to put this money in pre-tax. And one of many people's biggest concerns going into retirement is that what their medical expenses are going to be, right? Because health insurance is super expensive, as you can see. Northwest Edison is so generously paying for the majority of your premiums here. It's a huge expense. As when you're retired, it's even more expensive, right? Because they know, and once we get up there in age, that our medical bills start to accumulate faster than when we're young and healthy and bulletproof. So if you did this for a long time and you have a significant balance sitting there to help you in those retirements, ease that. It's all happening on a pre-tax basis. You can actually use these funds for. Let me see what's on the next page here. All right. You can use the funds for quite a few different things. You can actually pay for qualifying long-term care plan premiums through your HSA, which is nice too if you're considering buying a long-term care policy. You've got an expert in the back that used to work for a long-term care insurance company.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you had a previous HSA account with your former employer, would you continue that? It would just be.
You can roll those funds into
I
this.
still have that,
Yeah.
so I would have to roll.
You could either keep that there and just spend it down, use that first to spend down to zero. Because most likely, once you left there, you might be paying a monthly fee on that account. So like $2 or $3 or $5 might be coming out every single month, right? So you probably want to spend that down to nothing and then just start using this one. Or roll it over. There's usually a small fee with the bank that you're currently with of maybe $15 to $20 to roll it all over, and then it's all in one account. But yes.
Do you have one opportunity to determine how much? And throughout the year, can you just throw money in there? Say, hey, I got this coming up. Let me just.
Exactly. Yep. So you could change your contribution as frequently as Kim will allow you to, and do the payroll updates. But yeah, if let's say you said, hey, I want to do like $100 a month, right? And then all of a sudden in March you had a $1,500 dental bill that you didn't expect that came up. You could go to Kim and say, hey, can you take $1,000 out of my next paycheck and put it in as a one time?
And then what if you started in October?
Yeah.
Are you still allowed the full annual deduction?
If you enrolled for the first time
Yeah.
in October,
Yeah, as a new employee.
yeah, like a new hire, then
Yeah,
I
new
believe
hire.
it's a prorated amount
It is.
for those 3 months. Yep.
Is there a monthly fee for that?
No, that monthly fee is being paid for by your employer. Yeah, so there is one, but it's being picked up by Northwest Edison.
And if you have the same HSA with Regents, you use the same health equity card.
Same card, yep. It's really not attached to the health plan.
If I had an HSA but was gonna switch, I could still use those HSA funds even
Exactly.
towards insurance, even if I'm now on a PPO.
Exactly. If you were to decide, if you're on the HSA now and choose to go onto that more PPO plan with the copays, you can no longer contribute to the HSA. Those funds would remain there for you and you could use those to pay for your expenses on the new plan.
So what's the logic between the two and not being able to do the HSA plan with PPO?
Yeah, so the logic, I don't know all the logic behind it, but I know that what qualifies you to be able to have the HSA bank account attached is that you can't have those upfront benefits, right? So that's those copays, and then it has to have a high enough deductible, right? So the deductible minimum is $1,350, which obviously you guys are higher than that, and then you can't have any of those upfront the copays for office visits and prescription drug costs. So it has to meet those in order to have the HSA. So basically, they know you're going to have more out-of-pocket expenses by being on this plan, which is what's allowing the pre-tax account to be tied to it. Yeah. So this is, again, all on the pre-tax basis. Once you have a balance of $2,000 in the HSA account, actually investment options are available to you through Health Equity. It's like a list of, a dozen or 20 mutual funds that you can choose from. Of course, that then puts the money at risk, right? So you could potentially lose some of your money that you have earmarked for medical, dental, or vision expenses, but it could also grow, right, at a faster rate than just the very little interest that's on the account.
If you did, how quickly would you be able to
liquidate the funds to
Yeah.
pay for an expense? I think it's pretty quick,
Okay.
like the next day.
Oh, yeah.
So you'd have to go on sell and then it would become available, I think, the next day.
Okay.
Yeah. That said, the funds in an HSA become available as you put the money in. So if you elected to put $100 a month into the account, so if you said, hey, I want $1,200 next year, right, and in that first month, $100 comes out of your paycheck, there'll be $100 available in your HSA account. Okay, not the full $1,200 right up front. So that's another thing to just, keep an eye on before you just go and spend it. They do try to just shut it off to where you can't go overdraft. But a couple pieces on that. Let's say you did have a more major medical expense that was, going to cost you $3,000 out of your pocket. Most providers are willing to set up a payment plan with you, right? So if you just said, hey, I'm on an HSA, can I pay $250 a month until my balance with you is paid off? And then you can go and set up a payroll deduction of $250 a month. And then you just have your debit card and come out of the HSA every single month, right? Or you could pay it if you have the funds available in your personal checking account, you could pay those funds out of your personal checking account, go through Health Equity at the end of the year. Once those funds are available, you can submit that you paid it, right? And they'll just reimburse you the funds out of your HSA account as well. So if you went, for example, another example of that is if you went to fill a prescription, right, and you forgot your debit card and you paid with your checking account, and it was like $40 you paid out of your pocket, you could take that receipt, scan it, send it into Health Equity online, and they'll just send you $40 out of your own HSA. So you're getting that tax advantage. Okay.
So just so I understand, I can make a one-time payroll deduction into the HSA account?
Kim will let you.
Okay.
Has the capability.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
She's pretty nice, so I bet she will. Yeah.
What kind of latte do you?
That's right. That's right. The latte will be after tax dollars. Again, these are all the same as how it currently works. So anybody on the plan that's used to using it, this is probably just a refresher for you. Any other questions on the banking portion? We're doing good on time because the rest will fly through. Medical is the big piece. All right, so we're going to talk about the dental plan. You're currently with Delta Dental, and that's changing to Primera as well. Primera has a very robust network. Again, just make sure you're seeing those in-network contracted providers. Dental is a little bit different in that even if you saw someone that was not contracted with Primera, it's unlikely that they're not, but there may be a few people in here that see dentists that aren't contracted with Primera. So this is more likely than on medical that you see someone that's not. But if you are, there's very it's very unlikely that you'll be balance billed. So you, for the most part, you get the same coverage and or out of network with dental. The difference is that you could be balance billed if you're seeing someone out of network. So when we're looking at this, there's a deductible of $50. All of these are the same as your current plan. So these are all how you currently are covered. $50 deductible per person to $150 max for the family. There's really three main categories that prescription or that dental claims fall within. The first one, class 1, that's your preventive care, right, and diagnostics. So go in and get your teeth cleaned, right? You get 2 cleanings a year, costs you nothing out of your pocket. So please go get your teeth cleaned. Your coworkers will appreciate it as well. Costs you nothing out of your pocket. That class 2, the restorative, that's really going and getting your fillings, things like that, right? So you're going to pay 20% of those costs. The insurance pays 80%. Class 3, that's really those crowns and implants, the more major services for dental. You pay 50%. The insurance company pays 50%. The annual maximum, this is per person, so if you have a family covered, each person has their own bucket of $2,000. What that is that's how much the insurance company will pay out in a calendar year for you. All right, so once they've paid out $2,000, you no longer have insurance, dental insurance. That's a really important number. This is the same as your current plan, right? So that $2,000 is the same as today. Just a lot of people don't completely understand what that $2,000 is. So let's say you did get a teeth cleaning, right, and you paid 20% of that bill, and maybe the bill was $200, so you paid $40. The insurance company paid the other $160 to your dentist. That $160 would come off of the $2,000. So now you have whatever that is, $1,840 remaining, right? So once they've paid out that $2,000, you no longer have coverage. So this is the time of year. So if you have any dental procedures that you need done right now in the month of December, obviously if they're urgent, you need to go get them taken care of. But if it's something that's more that you could wait till January because you may not have any coverage left, go onto the Delta Dental site, see how much you have left on your limit, and you may want to postpone your visit by a couple weeks and have it in January so that you have a full $2,000 bill.
So are you talking when you say you don't have dental coverage, does that mean that you could not go and get a cleaning because that costs Premier money, so they would have subtracted it from the $2,000?
Yeah, let me just double check one thing.
I know with my dentist, if they have to do a crown or something, they typically look at that $2,000 and they'll say, let me check to make sure that you have enough left.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're doing it the other way around, where you're having to have the major part done first and then you still need to go for a cleaning later that year.
Yeah, so the $2,000, you're right. So if you got the the teeth cleanings don't apply to that. So it's only if you're in class 2 or 3.
Okay.
So anything class 2 or 3. So the teeth cleanings don't apply to the $2,000, which is another benefit.
Perfect.
I just saw that on page 31 in your guide. We're on the dental page there. The annual maximum, it says there, the $2,000 per calendar year applies to basic and major services, which is the class 2 and 3.
And all of this is whether you're the HSA or the PPO?
Yeah, the dental plan doesn't matter which plan you're on. But you can use those HSA dollars to pay for dental expenses out of your pocket as well. It's really the HSA bank account. The only note there is obvious things. You can't buy your groceries with it. You can't go to Home Depot and remodel your house with the HSA funds. Because then you pay tax on it and a penalty. Similar to your 401k, if you took money out early, just you're going to pay the tax on it and a penalty on top of that. It's exactly.
And you can buy things like reading glasses and that kind of.
Yeah, so that you can't actually with reading glasses. You need a prescription. So as long as you have a prescription tied to it. So if you wanted to go and just buy a bunch of like Dayquil, right, or if you wanted to buy a bunch of ibuprofen, you need a prescription for it. So if you don't have a prescription, if it's over the counter, it's not going to work.
So like a splint or Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
We used to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like vitamins and stuff even.
Yeah, here's the thing, like, you could do it, right? If you get audited by the IRS, then they'll ding you for it.
That's good to know.
Because I'm positive
that I spent it.
You have to be audited, which is very unlikely, right, for most.
Except for when you turn 65. When you turn 65, can you use it for what you want? What's that? When you turn 65?
No, when you turn 65, you can use the funds as income, right? So you could take the money out and you won't pay that additional penalty, but you will pay tax.
Right.
You'll pay income tax, but you don't have the additional penalty. So you could take it out, put it in your personal checking, then you can spend it on whatever you want.
Okay. I remember Noelle told me she was doing that. She's gonna buy a big TV with hers.
But that's again, another
Okay.
reason why people like this, is that you can use it as an additional vehicle for retirement. So it's just like putting money in your 401k, you're doing it pre-tax, and when you take it out in retirement, hopefully you're at a lower tax bracket, and then, but you do end up paying tax on it if you take it as an income.
It will actually process at a checkout line.
It may not at Home Depot, but where there's a pharmacy, they probably will.
Don't do it, Paul.
You have to be audited.
Don't get on.
Yeah.
Energy drinks, energy drinks.
Vitamins and that, right?
Yeah.
B12.
Home Depot did
So any questions on the dental plan before we move on to the last couple benefits? Again, those are all the same as they currently are today. It's just a new network. Yeah. And what I meant by balanced billing, if you are seeing someone that's out of network, you can see those tiers are the same. It's just they can balance bill you. So if you go in for a teeth cleaning, they pay what's called at a usual and customary rate. So if like 90% of providers in this area charge $180 for a teeth cleaning, right? They will pay $180 to that dentist that's not in network. But if that dentist you see wants to charge $200, right? They can send you the $20 bill to you personally. So that's why you want to see in-network providers that are contracted, because then they can't send you that additional $20 bill. So really these dollars over here are kind of, I don't even like to put it on there because it's kind of misleading in a way, in that you could still have money out of your own pocket by seeing out of network contractors. But there's only a 10% chance because they pay at the 90th level, right? So what 90% of people charge, you just, if you're seeing one of those 10% of providers that want to charge more than the norm, you'd be responsible for it. There is a vision benefit that's embedded into your medical plan. Okay, so it'll be moving from VSP today to Primera. And the plan is a little bit different than your current plan. For an eye exam, is $25 copay you get once every 12 months. Okay, outside of that, you just pay $25, you get the eye exam covered in full. I say once every 12 months. This is going to restart for you on January 1st, right? So even if you just went and had an eye exam this month, you can get another one in January. I don't know why you would if you just had one, but you could go get another one. But in general, vision works a little bit different, that it doesn't really reset on a calendar year. This year does because we're making a change. But let's say, we're having this meeting next year and you go in on March for your eye exam and it's $25. You can't go in for another eye exam until the following March and pay another $25. So everything runs on these months basis. Lenses are covered in full after the $25 copay. Currently today you're at a $20 copay, so it's $5 more than your current plan. But then the frames is covered. You get the $150 allowance once it frames every 24 months. Contacts are every 24 months as well. They're in lieu of one another, so you get the $150 bucket for one or the other. The difference here is that you currently get it every 12 months, where on this is every 24. Okay, so same benefit, the 150, it's just this is every 24 months. Most people don't get new frames once a year. They're getting them once every 2 years.
Yeah, so contacts don't last 2 years.
Yeah.
I believe that may be wrong. It may be 12 months. I'd have to double check on that. Because here it's currently every 12 months apply.
Yeah.
So.
We'll double check it.
We'll double check.
But vision benefits are pretty limited in general anyways, but you can use your HSA funds to pay for those out-of-pocket vision expenses as well.
So we should go get a pair of glasses right now.
Sure, yeah.
And then with the new one, you could get your contacts.
Absolutely. If you have any benefit left, go use it this month. Absolutely. Yeah. Any questions on vision? All right, there's a MetLife. This is a life insurance policy, $25,000 benefit that's provided to everybody that's employed here, working over the 30 hours a week. So this is paid for by Northwest Edison. Okay, so there's really nothing to do here. You're all going to have this coverage. There is a form in front of you, though, that we want you to fill out, and really the important piece there is put your name on there and write in your beneficiary information. So if something were to happen to you, you're choosing where the funds go versus it going into the state's hand and them choosing. So that's why you see the MetLife form in front of you. Other than that, not a ton to cover. That is the same as benefit that you got today. Last benefit we're going to talk about is that you also have access to an EAP program. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with EAP. This is a benefit that's 100% confidential to use. You can get up to 3 face-to-face visits with the counselor. You have free access to it. Anybody in your household has access to it. And you can use it really for almost any reason you could think of needing a counselor. You have access to this benefit. You'll get up to 3 visits for free. Okay? So you just call this number to get started. There's also a flyer in your guide regarding this information. So really, if you're marital stress or marital counseling, managing stress, if your children need any type of counseling, any type of addiction or substance abuse, right, you can use this service. Again, it is 100% confidential, so none of that gets shared back to the employer. Those visits can be really expensive. Right? They can be a couple $100s per counselor visit, so you're getting the start of that. And then if you needed more sessions for yourself or anyone in your family, it would be at a discounted rate. Okay. They also have other cool benefits, like you can talk to an attorney for a free 30-minute consultation with an attorney. There's financial planning services. There's identity theft services available through here as well. But what most people use it for is those counseling needs. And again, it is for you and anyone in your household. They don't have to be on your medical plan. So even if your mother-in-law is living with you, right, and they needed help, they can use this service. Really nice benefit that's very underutilized, but just know that it's there, right? Or you guys are probably like a family here. I know many of you have worked here for a while. If someone's telling you something about their personal life, right, the best advice you could probably give them is to seek professional help, not give them your own advice. You could probably tell them how to, retrofit a light or something, but probably not on their counseling needs. So really nice benefit that's available there for you. Again, there is just there's a whole slew of paperwork. Please get all of that turned into Ken by the 12th. That was a lot of information to go through in a short amount of time, but we appreciate you letting us come out. And if you have any questions, we're going to hang out here for a little bit longer.